One question that comes to mind as we wrap it up. You're not fazed by the fact that you're seeing political parties here there popping up, who thinking it's a resurgence and who.
No, I have a different approach to politics. I honestly mean this. I joined National Democratic Congress because I felt principles and values based.
And the lie detector said that was a lie. Okay? The gentleman did not join the NDC based on some principled approach because he loved the principles of the NDC. The gentleman didn't even know the principles of the NDC. Okay? The gentleman parachuted with his comrades into the NDC because the gentleman saw opportunity. So let's keep it 100. Let's keep it real. The so-called nation builders did not have the guts. They weren't man enough and they did not have the cojones to form their own party. So they saw an opportunity, and just like typical opportunists, they seized the moment with the NDC. To try to paint some image to the Grenadian people that you're such a principled man. Oh, I joined because I love the principles of the NDC. Everybody know that is just BS. Okay? Everyone who knows the history of your entrance into the NDC. A matter of fact, you were brought or introduced to the NDC by Persuader. Okay? So it's like you joined the NDC. Let's be honest about what took place. And in some respects, those looking at the situation and familiar or intimate with the situation would say that Persuader was double-crossed. Okay? And again, from the get-go, Mr. Philip Telesford was swept aside. And that is why there is no respect for Mr. Philip Telesford. Because it started off with a casting away. It started off with a sweeping aside. So when something starts like that, there will never come a time where Mr. Philip Telesford will be respected. Ever. Because you entered into the party and in some respect, he was disrespected. How are you going to have respect for him? That is why he's trampled on and disrespected at any opportunity that is given. You guys saw opportunity. The NDC was going through a bad patch. Okay? And then you parachuted into the NDC. Okay? And did what you had to do. So you parachuted into a fragile and broken party. Okay? And the elders within the institution did not protect the institution. Did not even give you guys some sort of probationary period so you could familiarize yourself with the principles, the true principles of the NDC. Okay? And then you could learn. That is why the political immaturity and incompetence showed itself when you were taken to task in the real political situations. Okay? So, the elders within the NDC party who thought they were doing something just out of political expediency, you, in some respects, are complicit in all the subsequent problems of incompetence that the current administration faces and Grenada has to suffer under. You, the elders, okay, who should have known better, are responsible for the situation that Grenada now finds itself. If George Prezan and the founders of the NDC saw the state, the current state of the NDC, okay, they themselves probably would be utterly brokenhearted. They will shed a tear if they could see what the NDC has become. There is no NDC. As I have said, it has been infiltrated, okay, by socialist Marxists who also are very good opportunists, okay? So what you have in this so-called NDC now is a band of opportunists. And they have some sort of bond of opportunism. And that bond of opportunism never lasts very long. Because when any one of them smells opportunity in a different direction, that edifice, okay, that rotten edifice will come tumbling down. I have known and I have seen people who truly love the NDC. I've been around them for the last 30-something years in Brooklyn, okay? And I have seen the people who broke their backs, even in the NDC New York chapter, to build the organization and support the organization. And then you have charlatans and imposters come and inherit the labor of these people. I've seen it with my eyes. Some of them are 30, 40 years of lifelong friendships. And I know them personally. And I've seen what they've done, how much they've invested in this party. So you guys can't tell me nothing. Okay? When I say what I say, I've earned the right to say what I say. And that is why I cannot be associated with this sort of charade of an NDC. Again, you didn't go into the NDC because it was some sort of principled approach. Yeah, I love the principles of the NDC. You saw opportunity, and when you were introduced into the party by Mr. Persuader, Adrian Thomas, okay, then you took advantage of what you saw. Some may go as far to say, let's look at your history with law firm Grant and Grant. What's the history? You can't explain the history? One thing is clear, that there's a pattern that is consistent and is clear for anyone to see that have eyes. It's all about opportunism, and opportunism. Okay? That's what it's about. It's about self. And that is why there is such a difficulty in doing anything magnificent or significant that can be attached to a legacy. Everything that is touched in terms of project turns to stone. So no one can look and say, oh, what defines this administration leader's legacy? Okay? What are we going to say? You paid the pension? The pension was paid by the Grenadian taxpayer. The pension was paid by the Grenadian taxpayer. So that is not legacy forming. What are we going to say again? We tried to build a retaining wall closure and that failed miserably. What are we going to say again? We tried to install some pipes in the south and that again failed miserably. What are we going to say? What is the legacy that can be attached to the leader of the current administration so far? Where is the legacy building? Name something monumental that this gentleman has done that you can say, oh, well, we can attach this to the legacy of the leader of the administration. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. All of it is based on fantasy, okay? And all of it is based on charlatanism. Period. Even this so-called flagship teaching and research hospital has started off on deception and seemingly significant improprieties. This is the only sort of legacy that would be attached, seemingly, to this current administration. And for administration that came into office, handsomely met $500 million in the treasury, okay, got CREF money, got donations from all over the place. And the question is, what significant or magnificent that you can show that you did? But yet still you turn around and you try to throw shade on the former administration. They are magnificent structures that have been built that you get to enjoy that was built by previous administrations. The PRG can talk about the building of the airport. Okay? You have a stadium. You have all these buildings all over the place, the parliament, all these different things that is built by previous administration. What is the flagship monument to power and success and legacy that the NDC current administration has done and built? Show me. Where is it? It's nowhere to be seen. And then you come and you start off with this Polaris Teaching and Research Hospital, and you come with a peddler, okay, of deception and seemingly significant improprieties. That is what we got. This is what the people of Grenada have put their hopes and their dreams and their heart and their ambition, their earnest ambition in. Okay? And this is how they are rewarded. Now, it's sad in some ways that the Grenada Social Democratic Party would have liked for things to be different, would have liked to see this current administration have something, because every administration has something significant that defines the administration. But no, the GSDP, we have to come and we have to expose all these seemingly improprieties. We're not happy about that because ultimately we are concerned. We are the defenders of Grenada. Okay? And because we are the defenders of Grenada, we have no choice. We cannot sit by idly like some may and they sleep good at night and they feel comfortable. We can't, because we understand the implications for existing generations and future generations. Don't give the Grenadian people some sort of fairy tale vision of your entrance into the NDC party.
So I'm happy that we live in a society where people are free to form as much political parties, as much movements they could, like grasshopper, jump here, there, and everywhere.
And unfortunately, knowing the history of the gentleman and the actions, how they got into the NDC, the gentleman has some guts, okay? And some sort of moral authority and tries to throw shade. And we understand on Uncle Peter David. He's like a grasshopper. But Peter David, in some respects, have more guts than any of them that tried to throw shade on him or talk about him. I'll tell you why. Because he formed his own party. He broke his back to form his own party. And everyone know that that is a difficult thing to do. We can't say that about the nation builders. Where's the nation builders party? Did the nation builders build a party from scratch? No. What did the nation builders do? The so-called nation builders. And in some respects, I believe that they are nation destructors. What did the nation builders do? Look at their legacy. What would the so-called nation builders be remembered for? What would they be remembered for? But people are going to remember Peter David as an elder statesman, okay, that served his country for decades and at least in his golden years formed his own party. What can be said about the so-called nation builders? Look what is being said. Look what is being said about the so-called nation builders. Look. So that is you guys' legacy. That, okay, alleged improprieties in the public space. You can say many things you want to say about Uncle Peter, but you can't say that he used the machinations of government, okay, to enrich himself. You can't say that about him. So these guys on the show, they thought it cute. Oh, look at him, he's throwing shade at Peter David. And in some respects, Uncle David, camarade, you are allowing this and you're encouraging this. The gentleman without decency, after Peter David, okay, was so gracious to him and his party in Parliament, the gentleman came in and spoke for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. And about an hour of that speaking was throwing shade at Peter David. Obviously, MP David, you have not seen or you have not learned from the experience of how he treated his own associates. You have not learned or seen how he treated Mr. Philip Telesford. And it's like any relationship. the start of the relationship is critical. Obviously, the start of his relationship with MP Telesford, okay, started off with degradation. It started off with disrespect and degradation. And that continues to this day. So, Mr. David, if you had addressed the very first shade that was taken at you, you might have thought twice about doing it again. But you allowed it. You said nothing. When in some respects, I thought it was a humiliation of sorts. Okay? And the shade, he took at you in the parliament. Man, the gentleman talked about your age. And you told him 15 years ago, you were too old to form a party. Okay? And he talked about, even laughed about the name of the party, movement. And he says the name of the party reflects your movement from party to party. And you said nothing about it. Mr. David, you have to be careful. Some Grenadians and people may misinterpret this as weakness. Some Grenadians will say, okay, well, if Mr. David doesn't stand up for himself and defends himself when clearly shades are thrown at him, then how is he going to stand up and defend the Grenadian people? You have to be careful. Perception goes a very long way in politics. And here it is again. The gentleman is obviously emboldened. That is why he goes on this show again and throws shade on me. I think the public is waiting to see how you would respond to this particular situation. And depending on how you respond, the public will make their own assessment and come to their own conclusion and judgments. So I think in some respects, you should be very considerate and deliberate about how you respond to this shade. But respond, I believe you must. The first one, again, in Parliament, Mr. David was gracious to the leader of the administration and the administration. And then shade was thrown at him. Then here again, without any prompting, without any reason from Mr. David to throw shade at Mr. David, the gentleman comes again and tries to throw shade and in some respects belittle Mr. David. So I don't know. I don't know, comrade. I don't know. I believe you must address this. And again, I forgot to even mention, there was shade being thrown even before the Parliament thing and this recent thing. The gentleman threw shade in the convention in Boucherville. Remember when he said, oh, there was a fella called Pedro. And when he left, and then the DJ started playing the song, oh, it was a blessing, and the whole crowd erupted. So I am starting to believe that the leader of the current administration sees MP David as an easy target. None of this is a coincidence. This is not being done by accident. This is deliberate. This is 3 different occasions where this gentleman seizes the opportunity to throw shade at MP Peter David. Is that by accident? Is that a coincidence? I don't believe so. Anyway, I just want to remind you guys that the GSDP is here to defend Grenada. Okay, we will stand up for Grenada and Grenadians. And we're not going to sit by idly and see one party throw this sort of shade on another party. And especially when, again, Mr. David is trying to be gracious. He's trying to encourage unity. He's extending olive branches all over the place. Obviously, the leader of the current administration is not returning in kind and probably does not want your olive branch. That is what he's saying. He doesn't care about your olive branch. He doesn't care about creating a climate of respect and honor in political discourse. So, Mr. David, you alone can make a decision as to how you deal with the situation. You alone can command and regain your respect and not have yourself be treated with such dishonor. On that note, my fellow Grenadians, guten Nacht.